A passenger plane is landing. Due to the slippery track, multiple factors such as the spoiler not being opened caused the airliner to overrun the runway and fall off a cliff. This aircraft was a British Aerospace 146-200, a jet designed for short runways. Equipped with 4-geared turbofan engines, many pilots are fond of this plane, making it one of the most popular regional aircraft in the world. Many airlines operate this model, and Atlantic Airways, headquartered in the Faroe Islands, is no exception. The company partnered with a natural gas company and signed a long-term charter agreement, specifically for the transportation of employees. The route departs from Stavanger Airport in Norway, with a 15-minute layover at Stord Airport, before arriving at the destination, Emary Airport. There are 5 round trips per week. On the morning of the accident, October the 10th, 2006, Flight 670, registered as a YCRG, began operations as usual. There were 2 pilots on this flight, a captain with 10 years of experience, aged 34, and a co-pilot with 10 years of experience, aged 38. When flying to the first stop at Stord Airport, the plane was carrying a total of 16 people, 2 pilots, 2 flight attendants, and 12 passengers. Upon arrival at Stord Airport, more passengers were expected to board the plane. Stord Airport is located in a beautiful area, famous for Norway's fjords and coastline, but also challenging for airport construction. Stord Airport is situated on elevated terrain, with cliffs to the north, south, and east. The runway is approximately 1,400 meters long. In general, planes need to reverse thrust to slow down, using brakes and spoilers in combination. But the planes in this story are a little different. It is not fitted with a thrust reverser. Instead, in the tail of the plane, another interesting device is installed. Activated during landing, the pilot turns on a device called the air brake, a useful tool for steep and short runway landings. This device is not directly related to the accident, but the switch of this unit is controlled by the throttle lever, and is shared with spoiler switches. After leaving Stavanger Airport, the crew contacted Stord Air Traffic Control, hoping to land on runway 15 from the north. As the weather improved, and visibility increased, the pilot immediately changed his plan. They now hoped to land from runway 33 on the south side, which would reduce landing time, but introduce a slight tailwind. Normally, planes land against the wind, but the captain believed the tailwind would not affect this landing, and he was correct. Even with the current tailwind speed, the plane still had sufficient range to land. Flight 670 began its landing, but the runway was in a contaminated state. A contaminated runway means there is a lot of water, snow, or other debris on the surface, due to continuous local rainfall. Stord Airport's runway had significant water on it, which would increase the plane's braking distance. Even so, the runway length was still sufficient for Flight 670. However, Stord Airport did not have grooving. Most commercial airports have grooves on the runway to prevent standing water. These grooves help to drain water away. At this point, the pilot prepared to open the spoiler, moving the lever into the spoiler switch position. But the spoiler did not open as intended. Under normal circumstances, to activate the spoiler switch, 4 throttle controls need to be set to idle, with at least 3 in the correct position. According to the post-accident investigation, the throttle controls were indeed in the correct position, but the spoiler failed to deploy. The control panel issued a warning signal, and the captain immediately applied the brakes as hard as he could. However, the braking of the tires was insufficient, so the captain activated the emergency brake. Under normal braking conditions, the brakes have an anti-skid function, but the emergency brake does not, leading to tire lock. The combination of a slippery runway and locked tires resulted in a phenomenon called hydroplaning, where the tire rubber heats up from friction and creates a layer of vapor on the wet runway. At this moment, the aircraft's traction and braking force were greatly reduced. Combined with the tailwind, this extended the distance required for the plane to taxi. The crew desperately tried to slow the plane down, and some passengers noticed that the plane was taking longer than usual to decelerate. With no other options available, the captain attempted to steer the plane off the runway. He first made a sharp right turn, then a left turn, but the plane still could not stop. If only the runway had been a little longer. The plane ultimately exited the runway at a relatively low speed, but after passing through a forest and down a cliff, the plane exploded and caught fire, with the cockpit door jammed. The pilots escaped by climbing out of the side window. Both pilots survived. The only exit from the cabin was the rear left door, forcing passengers to climb onto the wing to evacuate. The accident claimed the lives of 3 passengers and a flight attendant, with a total of 4 fatalities and 12 injuries. After the accident, the investigation team was unable to determine why the spoiler did not deploy. Their report offered 2 possible explanations. One was a potential malfunction in the throttle control, preventing the spoiler from receiving the activation signal. The other was a mechanical failure in the air brake and spoiler systems themselves. The investigation team also emphasized one critical point: a runway without drainage grooves can seriously affect an aircraft's braking ability. They recommended that Stored Airport upgrade its runway with grooves, and indeed, the airport implemented these changes, not only installing grooves but also lengthening the runway. Since then, the airport has not experienced another accident. May miracles happen again, and may plane crashes never occur again. This video comes to an end here. See you next time.